Major League Baseball has officially locked out the players and reviewing the Twins' options at shortstop on today's episode of Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Minnesota Twins podcast. Today is Thursday, December 2nd, and I'm your gracious host, Nash Walker. Thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms. We're going to answer some questions today. Again, this is Nash Walker, writer at Twins Daily, lifelong Twins fan, bringing you 5 days a week coverage on the Minnesota Twins. We had a fun little mailbag yesterday. We had some carryover. I want to get to some of these questions, I think, turn them into larger discussion. But first, the biggest thing is the lockout, right? So very simply, every 5 years, collective bargaining agreement, they have to review it, renew it. If it's not, there's a work stoppage. Simply, like, that's in very simple terms. But the league has locked out the players. And if you're wondering why the league does it, it's because it gives them leverage in talks. Like the players, the free agents, everybody on the player side obviously wants the season to start on time, right? And they want to get their guys signed. And for the owners to put that pressure on the players, it is hopefully for the owners going to get them to agree to the deal that the owners want, or going to get them to concede in negotiations. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do throughout this process. I am not going to break down every single proposal that comes out. I am not going to break down the media leaks from both sides. I'm not interested in doing that. I got way too much of that during the COVID shutdown, breaking down all these like 100-game proposals and 80-game proposals and 120. When the new CBA comes out, we will break it down in earnest, I promise. But I'm not going to dissect every single media blurb that comes out about what the players are looking for, what the owners are looking for, because that's what it is. It's a media blurb a lot of the time. It's one of the sides intentionally putting it out there to make the other side look bad or to gain leverage in talks, and I'm not going to contribute to that on either end. And frankly, it's just not that interesting to me. I care about baseball. I care about the Twins. I care about how they're going to get better. I don't care about the collective bargaining agreement. I really don't. So we're not going to do that. What we're going to continue to do is talk about how the Twins can get better and talk about their situation and talk about what lies ahead for them and how obvious it is, but also how complex it is, how simple it is, but how it's not easy moving forward for the Twins. I don't know how long this lockout's going to last. I hope it's shorter than some have predicted, but we have a lot to get to. Certainly, there's a ton of content. If you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, and next week, or I can think a couple of days, will be 2 years since my first episode as host. You listened to me back then. I listened to my first episode. I was so chipper about the Twins because they were coming off an amazing season, and I was like, oh, Derek Falvey, Thad Levine have put together this amazing organization. And I think today my enthusiasm's still there for the team. I'm always going to be optimistic about the team. And I think they have really good players. I think some of that has worn off, and I listen back and I'm almost like a kid on Christmas morning in those first couple episodes. But what we're going to continue to do is, yes, talk about the Twins, talk about their options, talk about how they can get better. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to talk prospects. We're going to talk technical aspects. Someone reached out to me. Really appreciate it. I believe his name is Connor. And Connor reached out and said, hey, if you could break down some of the stats you talk about, the arbitration, things that sometimes I forget that not everyone studies on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to talk about that this offseason too, and give you a better understanding of the stats I use, of the stats you hear about often, of stats I think that are going to continue to find themselves at the forefront of conversations as we talk about Major League Baseball and baseball in general. So we'll do that. I think that's a really good idea, and I appreciate Connor bringing that forward. We will do that this offseason for sure. Also, there's just so much to break down about this team in the future. We'll do a 5-year view. We'll do a 10-year view. We're going to talk about what it looks like moving forward. A big part of that is who's at shortstop, who's at the premium position up the middle for the Twins. And we don't know who it's going to be in 2022. We don't know who it's going to be in 2023. Like to think it's going to be Royce Lewis. We don't know. And we'll break that down a little bit today. Josiah, who is a longtime listener of the podcast, also brought up a very good question. Would you rather develop a bunch of good pitchers or a bunch of good hitters? And I want to break that down on today's episode as well and talk about the nuanced answers to that question, because I think it's interesting. And I think there's examples of both in Major League Baseball today, and a prominent one on the pitching side in the division. So we'll talk about that today as well. But I just want to let you know, like, this is not going to be a CBA show. I honestly, you might think it's interesting, and that's, there's going to be plenty to read and listen about the CBA and the negotiations. I think it's really technical. It's labor negotiations. It's fighting with billionaires. Like, it's just dumb to me, and I got upset about it over the COVID lockdown. I don't really want to be upset about it this winter. I'm just hoping and praying that it ends before the season is supposed to start, and I think it will, because I think both sides are incentivized not to miss games. I mean, everyone wants their money. That's what this comes down to. It's about money, and no one wants to miss games. So I'm optimistic that there will not be games missed, that the Twins will start. I think it's March 31st in Chicago on the South Side against the White Sox. I'm just not going to break down every single proposal that comes out. Let's talk about BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline has you covered all season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues the march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. Thank you again for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms. So Fresh Prince sent me a DM. Thank you, FP, for the DM last night. He said, as of right now, with Chris Taylor going back to the Dodgers, what do you think the plan at shortstop is for next season? Martin and Lewis both feel like they need more time. I agree. Martin and Lewis need more time, and I don't see Austin Martin as a long-term solution at shortstop as an everyday regular. Could he fill in at short? I think so. I think you're going to see Austin Martin as the number one backup center fielder for Byron Buxton over the next 5 years or so. But you're right, needs more time as well. Only at Double-A. Probably going to start with the Saints next year. Maybe starts at Double-A again in Wichita. Develop that power a little bit before he gets to the Twins. I think Austin Martin can be plugged in as a 260, 265, 330 on base hitter right now. It's just, where's that power? Where can he develop that power, and can the Twins help him develop that power? But this is interesting to me, FP, because this is crept into my mind. And I always say it, but it's so important to remember. The Twins have money to spend this offseason. When I say that, it doesn't mean I think that they're going to go spend a bunch of money or go over and above what they're usually at. It's they need to spend a lot to get to where they're usually at. And if they don't, I will be shocked. Their payroll's at $91 million. It looks very similar to how it did maybe around this time in 2019 in that offseason when they were going after Zach Wheeler. We were going after Hyunjin Ryu, whoever at that time, but especially Wheeler. This is what it looked like. And to me, this is going in a very similar direction. So the Twins miss out on Wheeler. They don't sign Bumgarner. They don't sign Ryu. They got Odorizzi back. They got Pineda back that offseason. Brios was already back in the rotation, but they needed more in the rotation, and everyone knew that. It's even more so this offseason. But the options were creeping off the board. And so here's what they did. They signed Homer Bailey and they signed Rich Hill on the same day. It was announced on the same day. And then they traded for a controllable starter in Kenta Maeda and traded Bruce Gratterall. I think we're heading to a very similar resolution here. I think the Twins, with their signing of Dylan Bundy, I think they're going to try for Rodon, but it still feels like getting Rodon is far away. I think they're going to sign lower level pitchers, and I think they're going to try to trade for controllable starters. I think that's the way that we're heading here with the Twins, very similar to 2019. But where that leaves you is you have money to spend, because if you're signing lower level pitchers, Dylan Bundy for $4 million or Homer Bailey for $7 million or whatever he signed for, Rich Hill with a bunch of incentives, you still have a lot of money to spend, and the Twins still have a lot of money to spend in that case. So if they fill their rotation, controllable starters are usually cheap because of arbitration in the system. They're usually cheaper. Like if they traded for Frankie Montas, they're only adding I think it's $5 or $6 million to the books for 2022. If they added Chris Bassett, I think it's $8 or $10 million. So you're not adding that much trading for controllable starters who are still in arbitration or pre-arb. You have money to spend. And this is a direction that I think is plausible at this point. I didn't think was plausible even a few days ago. If they miss out on Rodon, If they miss out on, they're not getting Clayton Kershaw. So Rodon's like the only guy left at the top end of the market. So if they miss out on Rodon, I'm telling you, there's like one guy left. There's really not that much left on the free agent starting pitching market in the top 10. You know, many of those guys have signed. Michael Pineda's still out there, but he's not going to cost you a pretty penny. If they miss out on Rodon and they're not able to sign him for 16, 20, whatever it is, 22 million a year, I think that there's a chance this goes in the other direction. What I mean by that is I think there's a chance they do go after Trevor Story, because I think the way these markets are developing, I do wonder, much like Donaldson in 2019, if the Twins find themselves in a position where they can't spend the money on starting pitching, they literally can't, because they can't secure, or they won't spend the money in free agency on a starter, they got to spend it somewhere. And they might put that money toward a long-term shortstop option. I could see them doing that, because what they did in 2019 is they looked at the free agent board and they go, oh boy, there's not a lot of starters left to spend on. Let's just give it to the best free agent, and that's Josh Donaldson, with a clear fit. You know, moving Sano to first, putting Donaldson at third made them a lot better, just not in the spot that they needed to get better at that time. It was more of a luxury signing at that time, but they got better. It's just about getting better. How are you going to get better? And I think by signing Trevor Story, they're not going to get Correa. I've said that. By signing Trevor Story, they obviously get better at short. You add another right-handed power bat. I think Story would fit in really nicely in the lineup, and I think he's made a lot of sense for a while. I don't think that this is like we're going to go so hard after Trevor Story right now. I think this is a direction that you could see, and this is narrowing down because there aren't a lot of starters left. So we're narrowing down to a finite number of options here for the Twins. It's Rodon, Kershaw, and Pineda. I don't think I'm missing any. I might be missing one in the middle. I don't think I am. I think that's really it. And for impact, true impact, frontline starters, it's Carlos Rodon, because Kershaw is not signing with the Twins. It's Carlos Rodon or bust in the free agent market in terms of a frontline starter when he's healthy. There's nobody else left. And that's scary. Like, that's scary, because a trade, you can end up getting fleeced because you're desperate to go fill out the starting rotation. And I will continue to say, as soon as Byron Buxton signed that contract, as soon as he signed that extension, you must go in for 2022. You must, because if Byron Buxton plays 130 games next year and he's a 7 or an 8 or a 9 win player, and you sign him to be that, and you pay him these incentives because he's in the MVP race, and you don't have viable starting pitching for it to even matter, that is a disgrace. I mean, that's brutal. And now you're looking like the Angels, and the people laugh at the Angels, you know, because Mike Trout will put up these 8, 9, 10 win seasons, and it doesn't matter for their success because they don't have the pitching. And I really would hate to see the Twins do that in 2022. I think the good thing is long-term, 2023, 2024, I'm optimistic about their starting pitching in the minors much more than I think Angels fans probably were about their starting pitchers in the minors. I think the Twins' strength, as I say over and over, has become upper minor starting pitching, because they added Woods Richardson, they added Ryan, they added, Stratman didn't show up, but they've added, and they've had some breakouts. Louis Varland, Cole Sands has been excellent. Matt Cantorino, velocity breakout. Josh Winder, velocity breakout. They've had legitimate breakouts. I'm not blowing smoke. Like, that's legitimate. I covered the minor leagues all last summer. I knew what was going on. They have legit arms coming. So I think it's different for 2023. But Byron Buxton going to his age 28 season, I wrote about this at twinsdaily.com, along with 3 moves I think that the Twins should make. You can't waste his age 28 season. And that doesn't mean I think they should go trade for Luis Castillo, trade for Frankie Montas, trade for all these guys and fill out the rotation and go all in for 2022 and trade a bunch of your best prospects. That's not what I mean. I mean, put together a rotation that has a chance to really compete. And doing that will give you, as a team, a chance to compete in 2022. You will have no chance if Dylan Bundy is your best starting pitcher that you acquire this offseason, or someone on Dylan Bundy's level. You have no chance. It's not going to happen unless you have ridiculous breakouts from Jordan Balazovic and Cole Sands and Yohan Duran and Matt Cantorino. All these guys come up and they all break out at the same time, and they upend all these starters you signed on 1-year deals. Just not viable. It's not going to happen unless you build that upside. You give yourself a chance. Give Byron Buxton a chance. Give Josh Donaldson a chance. Give Jorge Polanco a chance to reach their 90th percentile and for it to matter. That's the biggest thing. A bigger disgrace than Byron Buxton missing a bunch of time. I shouldn't say disgrace. A bigger disappointment than Byron Buxton missing a bunch of time over these next 7 years would be the Twins not properly aiding Byron Buxton if he does stay healthy. That is a bigger disservice. That is a bigger disappointment because they've had opportunities. And if they don't take advantage of Byron Buxton's health, and we don't know if it's coming, but they've already made that assumption that he'll be healthy or that they're betting on him being healthy. If they can't build around him, that would be a massive disappointment. And we're always going to love watching Byron Buxton play. You're going to enjoy, if he has an 8 or a 9 win season, you're going to love it. I mean, he'll be so fun to watch. But what is it going to mean if the Twins win 78 games and they finish 3rd or 4th in the Central? Like, what are you doing at that point? Why did you sign Byron Buxton if you're not going to aid him? And then it's a disservice to him, right? Because he signed and he committed to the Twins. And I don't want to go as far as saying they owe it to him, but he deserves commitment the other way. He deserves the Twins trying to win. Signing that contract, Byron Buxton could have waited another year, gone to free agency, and said, I'm gone. I don't want to be a part of this. We just finished in last place. I'm going to bet on myself. I want to go get a bag in free agency. He took $100 million from the Twins coming off a last place season. Very well knowing that if he stays healthy next year, he would have been a premier free agent on the market after next season, probably in line for $200 million plus because he's that good. He knows that. The Twins know that. He didn't do it. He signed back with the Twins. He committed to the Twins. And if you're the Twins, it would be a disservice not to surround him. And that has become at the forefront for me. It's different now. Before Buxton signed, the options were open for me. It was like, okay, maybe you do use it as a stepping stone and you kind of go into a mini rebuild. Maybe that's the best thing for the team long term. Now you don't really have a choice to me because you signed Byron Buxton and you made that commitment. Dave St. Peter says, I think yesterday or 2 days ago at the Buxton press conference, he's like, I think this signing of Buxton, I don't want to screw up his quote, but he said basically on the lines of, I think this signing of Buxton shows that we're serious about winning. Back it up. You said 2022 is not a rebuilding year. You like the word retool or whatever. You said you're going to invest in this team. Now do it. You got to do it. You can't waste Buxton's prime. You can't waste Josh Donaldson if he's able to stay healthy as well. You can't waste Jorge Polanco when he's making such little money on his extension and he's such a value to you. It's just that would be the most disappointing thing. It would be a lot more disappointing than the Twins signing Carlos Rodon and having him pitch 2 innings because he blows his shoulder out, or trading for Chris Bassett and Chris Bassett being a bust. A bigger disappointment would be not taking those chances and not even having a fighting chance in 2022. That would be the biggest disappointment for me for the Twins next year. And I went off on a little rant there with the shortstop situation in mind, but that's the deal. Like, they need to acquire talent and they need talent in the starting rotation, and they know that. And right now they just don't have it. This rotation is just not it right now. And they need to get work done after the lockout and put together a team that has a chance to win in 2022, because this team just doesn't look like it can right now. And the rotation is the main part. This offense has plenty of upside. Like, they can score runs with the best offenses in the game. I know that. Like, we know that. It's just going to be about building a competent pitching staff. And that doesn't mean I think they should go all in. Like I said, it just means give yourself a chance for some upside. Give yourself a chance to surprise as they did in 2019 by having Odorizzi, by having Pineda, by having Jose Barrios. They gave themselves a fighting chance to let their offense go to work. That's all I'm looking for in 2022. Let me know your thoughts. Josiah, we will get to your question tomorrow because I think it's really interesting. And we'll talk more tomorrow as well on the Twins. Hope you're enjoying the episodes. Please follow me on Twitter at NashWalker9. Please follow the show at Locked On Twins. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a comment, leave a like, whatever you desire. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Go Twins. Please make Locked On Bets your second listen. Locked On Bets is your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all podcast platforms. Thank you again for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. Make Locked On Bets your second listen. Thanks again. Go Twins.